Cursed Hollow.
Yeah!
Let's go into this.
Everything is resolved.
Thank you, production.
All right.
Saved by the bell.
Back to normality. That was the Chaos Desk, and now it has concluded. It's game number 3. It's going to be Tempo Storm going up against Gale Force eSports 1-1.
Guys, I'm stressed out.
No. The Chaos Desk is done.
Okay, we're good.
All right.
Oh,
And we're back.
See, that's what you thought, Killer.
Chaos has no control.
Can't be contained.
Oh, no.
Okay, coming back to our question.
Okay. To give my answer, we have to go all the way back to when dinosaurs roamed the Earth.
No.
And
Just
let me tell you
no.
the story, the
No.
history of the Earth, and then eventually, like, the draft will happen, and I'll be able to,
I just
like,
want a simple
All right,
yes or no. Like,
a
I don't-
simple yes or no?
Yeah.
Okay.
Like, we don't want context. That's your private business, man.
Maybe yes, maybe no. It depends on your perspective, I suppose.
Good job, man. I'm proud of you.
Back into the draft. Chaos Desk is concluded. Oh, I see why. Because it was reversed. They needed to
Alright,
swap.
so back to normality. Abatha, as expected on Cursed Hollow, huge impact. So Gale Force, he has terrible damage. So Gale Force immediately says, like, nope, not gonna happen.
I
You
feel
said
like
already that
yeah.
the Tempo is gonna aim for him. They have the first first pick here. So
And this makes a lot of
Second
sense from
pick.
Gale Force, right? It shows that they show a lot of respect to Tempo Storm, especially when it comes to their strengths on a map like Cursed Hollow. I don't know what Tempo would ban in response. There's Genji as an option. There's Uther as an option.
They seem to be favoring Tassadar for majority of the tournament so far. They just don't want to deal with the presence of that hero. If they do ban out the Tassadar, though, as you were mentioning, there is a Genji available for a pickup.
But the one thing with Tassadar here on the map is you not only put yourself into a position where you can enable a hyper carry, you also at the same time have the opportunity to just get all those force walls in the fights over the choke points.
Yes.
So it's actually really scary when you go up against it on the map. The added vision just is another bonus.
The Uther ban does not surprise me. He is arguably the best support in the game right now, but as we mentioned, Tassadar does make it through the draft, and GFE does snag it.
Yeah, I really like that they pick him up because I think Tassadar and that setup and the way that they've been playing is really going to work well for them. This is such a weird match overall for me right now. Since coming into this, Tempo looked like a very shaky team, and on the first map they really haven't convinced me. But the step that they took from map 1 to map 2 was a really big one, and Gale Force struggled on Battlefield of Eternity. But I think if they just focus on one of those team fight drafts once again, that seemed to be right down the alley, especially around the Illidan.
Yeah, for sure. I would agree with you. And honestly, Michael Udall, from my perspective, has had a couple of very standout performances on the Illidan and a couple not so impressive.
Yeah.
But I think if they draft it here, he's going to be coming out.
That was another point I was going to bring up, but a little bit on the different side, not hero-based, but shot-calling based. I feel like the further a series goes in for Gale Force eSports coming into Game 4, Game 5, the shot-calling gets more timid, a little bit less aggressive and more responsive, which comes into weird stalemate. So if this continues to go to Game number 4, Game number 5, Tempo Storm, who is known for their macro play and being a little bit more slow, could and will edge out Gale Force eSports as the series goes on.
Yeah, as a shot caller myself, it takes a long time to find your confidence as a player, and confidence can be a double-edged sword. But in many cases, like you brought up, once you start to second-guess yourself and lose confidence in yourself, that's when it really starts to hurt and you can struggle. But there's a couple anchors on GFE that I think could really help bring Michael's mentality back up after a loss. Like, for example, I think K1 Pro and CAF, they're both really solid players, but analytically they provide a lot of things. So if Michael were to start like toning it back a little bit, I think they'd pick up the slack, if that makes sense. So I think seeing the Illidan here again, it'll be a very telling what their state of mind looks like.
I mean, Illidan was, in my opinion, telegraphed after the Tassadar. They want the Illidan.
Yes.
Yeah, and with the global, they also have the power. So, and honestly, if shotgunning at some point becomes a problem, then Michael just has to man up and just say, all right, we got this now. They want to be the #1 team. They said it before. They said, in the future, down the road, we think we can be that team, that they have a very high skill ceiling. And if you want to be there, then you have to find that confidence in these situations. Just say, guys, let's go. And if it's the wrong call, then you follow the wrong call, you make a mistake, and you learn from it. They said it right from the start. First and foremost, this is a learning experience. How do we work as a unit offline? And so they need to make the most out of it.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree. And it looks like Tempo Storm is pretty comfortable with the draft as well. Ever since the role swap, we've seen Fury on the side lane in a majority of the games, and he actually does look very good on that Dahaka. So the fact that they're able to secure Psalm his Genji, and when Psalm's on point, he's without a doubt the best Genji in NA. I think Tempo's pretty comfortable, even though they let through the Illidan Tassadar, because they did get Psalm his Genji and the Dahaka, respectively.
I'm really liking the draft so far. I like that Gale Force has not that aggressive draft that they usually show here. I love that on the side of Tempo. As you said, Psalm on Genji is fantastic that you have that. It's also the macro-oriented style with the Haka in it as well. So far I'm really liking the way that the two teams have been drafting this. I mean, for Tempo right now, I just love Aka face when you just see him and you have that smile. And I was just about to think, is it a possibility to see Brightwing again? Because it adds another global and you have also control against Illidan to an extent.
Yeah.
Do you think that's reasonable here?
Yeah, sure. And I wouldn't really give the advantage to either team at this point in the draft. I think that both teams sort of have what they want at this point, but this will be really telling. I think securing the Oriole overall is very smart. They could go into a Lunara later if that's who they determine to be the best hope generator. Yeah. We could see the Vala again, although this is another game where I wouldn't really love the Vala too much. Cassia is also a fairly common option into Illidan, but we'll just have to see what Tempo Storm's thinking.
If you go into a Cassia, you have a really good battery, but at the same time you are very melee heavy towards your front line, so that might become an issue for you. But Gale Force is also in the world where they need... Could we see K1 Pro maybe even jumping on something like Li Ming?
Oh, he'll be on the Tassadar.
Yeah, he'll be the Tassadar here.
They have no options of actually switching that around. That's one of the things that we see in Europe.
K1 really does pride himself on his abilities as a Tassadar player.
Yeah.
Like, it's something that I don't think has been touched on too much in the past, but when you have a conversation with K1 Pro, he oozes confidence, but the thing is you wouldn't expect that because of how reserved he is as a human. So when he's on a character like Tassadar, a character he feels confident on, especially when Fan gets his Vala, he just looks very, very good.
I mean, we have Shad and a few other players in Europe who are doing quite well on Tassadar and have huge impact with force walls that they can provide too. But for me, K1 Pro from like the past when we were talking about last year, early last year, it was really just one thing where you kind of want him on one of the DPS heroes. But I can understand that a player with good game sense can with Tassadar just have massive utility in the fight.
After having played against and with K1 Pro for many years, I actually would say one of his strongest suits is his ability to save another player. It's a little bit weird because he plays that damage dealer role. But some of his best heroes, in my opinion, throughout his career has been his Falstad with defensive gusts. It's been his Tyrael, strangely, even though he doesn't play the warrior role. I think he's a phenomenal Tyrael. It's been his Tassadar. It's been his Medivh. He was actually one of the main inspirations for me to learn that hero in the first place. Like, K1 is a very good player when it comes to identifying when and how to save a player.
All right.
Last pick here coming for Tempo Storm. They're taking a while here. Do you think it might be the Golden, or do you think we're going to go into Lunara?
Lunara. Okay. I think Lunara makes the most sense. Thornwood Vines actually has a decent matchup into Tass Vala because you can just stand in the back and not trade with them and still get enough healing to proceed throughout a team fight.
All right, so looking at the two drafts. Game 3, Trixler.
I actually like Illidan into Genji with the Hunt. If you find the lockdown can punish their hyper-aggressive mobility, you get to a spot where you can be in control, and you have 2 global set up. I like what Gale Force eSports has.
Fan has been talking about how he watched Xingzi and he said, I can do that too. I believe in Fan. I say Gale Force has this. I believe in the Vala play now, and I say they can make that work.
Blau?
Again, being that determining factor of swinging one way or the other, I have faith in Tempo Storm here. I mean, I've kind of gotten burned in the past for having faith in Tempo Storm, but honestly, I feel like they've got exactly what they want. They've got Psalm on Genji, they've got Fury on the Dahaka, Cattle on his like classic Murd, and I think he's very good at that hero. So I honestly favor Tempo Storm a bit.
All right, well, thank you very much, gentlemen, as we're going to go over to game number 3 now. And thank you very much for your patience out there. I gave you a glimpse into the mind of the hidden ginger to my left-hand side. For now, we're going to go to game number 3 of Tempo Storm going up against Gale Force eSports.
We've already said goodbye to one North American team, and by the end of the series, we will say goodbye to another, leaving us with only one against 3 European teams. Who will be the best, who will do North America the most justice versus those European teams. It comes down to either Tempo Storm or Gale Force eSports in this series, Grubby.
Yes, a derby between these two teams, as only one will survive. And it's going to be a close match. It's 1-1 already. It is a best of 5, so guaranteed this map and one more. Let's see who takes the lead in this series. Here on the left, in the blue, it's going to be Akaface on Brightway, Mike Odell on Illidan, King Caffeine on Anubarak, Fan on Vala, K1 Pro on Tassadar. It's Gale Force eSports.
And their opponents getting a victory in the last game to tie the series. Tempo Storm, Caterpillar playing Muradin, Fury on his Dahaka, Som playing Genji, Lunara played by Koth and Luck, and June playing Ariel.
Solo support Ariel can get cocooned. It can get the Hunted to force out Crystal Aegis. There's a number of threats here against her. And after that, there will not be any hope generation for a bit if she gets cocooned, right? That means that Lunara will need to play it safely against the Vala, against the Illidan. It's a difficult comp here for Tempo Storm, but they have threats of their own. The poison damage, the finishing off from Genji. Truly, I joined the analysis desk here in saying that this is an even matchup where we're not quite sure who's going to come out ahead. So, execution is going to be everything. Fury collects his essence from the bottom lane and burrows up.
He's brush stalking up. Illidan and Tassadar are there, which makes this a 2-1-2 with both warrior players hanging out in the mid. The split soaks that you would know of, especially Illidan once he gets post 10 with the Hunt, will be up against each other, as well as in the bottom lane, Akaface and Fan hoping that they can slow down Koth and Luck and June. So both of the ranged carries hanging out with the supports. You talked about the Cocoon. How do you think Tempo Storm will fare with their damage dealers and trying to break their kidnapped target out of the Cocoon as quickly as possible? There is no Disintegrate, there is no Tracer auto attacks. Poison can be quite frustrating actually to take somebody out of that Cocoon.
Yeah, you know, Poison will tick once a second, auto attacks from Lunara come once a second, so it'll take her about 4 seconds to break someone out, maybe 3 to 4 seconds. Not the greatest. If Genji has the possibility to help, that will help as well. But it's not always per se necessary to break it as fast as possible. That is only the case if the fight is in full swing. Gale Force eSports, last game, they cocooned a lot of times where there was no threat on the rest of the members of Tempo. Tempo simply let the cocoon last its full duration and said, that was kind of random. We'll just wait, I guess. The supports got ready to save the target inside. Now, game goes on. Siege camp being attempted here by Mike Odal, but Psalm is there to harass him.
Brightwing is starting to phase shift in and seeing that Psalm will take off, not wanting to bring in Dahaka as well. Not fully committing to that camp, just trying to harass as best they can. If they had an opportunity to maybe get a takedown and steal the camp, they would have gotten it. But that harassment does come at a cost. There's no giant camp taken for Tempo Storm. The Tribute is going to spawn in the bottom. That means that this camp with the members of Gale Force eSports has the potential to get a lot done up here in the top, and Tempo Storm knows that. They want to try to do their very best to defend against that.
Yeah, Gale Force kind of employing a Sky Temple strategy here of pushing alongside with the Siege camp. Rather than prioritizing the Tribute, they will use Vala and Anubarak to buy as much time as they can and get massive value at the top here. This is an unusual way of dealing with things. They also get the Tribute and just get ahead in 2 ways at the same time.
I think that is just maybe the best example in-game of having your cake and eating it too. Sieging along with these giants with multiple members of Gale Force and being able to get the Tribute because Koth and Luck was fairly low. eSports a great start in this early game. They bring down a fort even, and they have a Tribute toward a curse.
The Raven Lord asked Gale Force to make a sacrifice of big proportions if they want that fort. They were willing to make the sacrifice, and then the Raven Lord was like, no, go ahead, have it anyway. Tempo Storm not able to stop that. Now keep in mind that Dahaka, Lunara, Genji, they need a little bit of time to get their stride here. Lunara needs level 10 to be truly effective. Dahaka needs his enhanced agility stacks. Genji needs his level 10 Dragon Blade to truly become a powerhouse. So it's not that confusing that Tempo is not as dominant in the early game. But still, nice move for Gale Force.
I love the harassment on Fury as well. Doing this means that they're keeping the Giants alive, which is forcing more and more resources of Tempo Storm to deal with it while a Tribute has been started. but Michael Udall needs to not lose his life here. The ticking heels of Akaface keep him safe until he can friend or foe back into range of the shield, but with Tempo Storm collapsing, they'll bring him down and claim first blood.
Akaface goes down as well. That's a double kill for Tempo Storm. Difficult situation there for Michael Udall. The moment that he went that deep in lane, at the top, took the damage, he tried to get away. And for the moment it looked like he would, but the Tassadar shield timing was awkward. Tassadar shield is momentary. It lasts for 4 seconds, and during that time you have a leeching plasma, you have the lifesteal, but the only target he could attack to get any life at all was Muradin. And Muradin likes to crack some skulls. He landed the he landed the Stormbolt and took down Illidan. Double kill for Tempo, and they will get the tribute as well.
Speaking of the Tassadar shield, no increased life leech from Kala's Embrace, instead getting Kala's Light here. You do see this quite a bit when you're up versus opponents who are able to burst through the shield quickly. And in this case, once Genji gets to Dragon Blade later on, he's going to be attempting to just burst through that. And so this way, they're still able to get more value out of the shield, even if it goes down before Illidan has been able to get a lot of the life leech out, giving the 15 armor for a little bit longer.
I like that a lot. Together with the Pixie Dust from Brightwing, that means 25 armor from Tassadar across the board, another 30 from the Pixie Dust, so that's 55 spell armor, and it's 25 physical armor on Illidan. He has evasion as well. All together, that makes for a very difficult to kill target, which is probably going to be Illidan. So nice move there. Now, heroics are reached. It's actually going to be Leaping Strike, not playing the safe backwards Thornwood fight harassing, but he wants to both dodge abilities. Keep in mind that if you use Leaping Strike, you can dodge Burrow Charge, Impale, and the Hunt.
And maybe in this case, as you referenced, Cocoon being a problem for an Ariel without another support and without a guaranteed way of trying to break her out. If Genji's already in the backline and Lunara becomes in danger, she can use those Leaping Strike to buy some time, try to burst somebody down too, even give slows on somebody so that later on Genji can chase them down. Exactly,
you become unstoppable during that Leaping Strike. You'll still take the damage from the Hunt, but at least you will not get stunned for that duration of time, so that's very useful. Tempo Storm reaches level 10 earlier, they get the boss, and in the meantime Gale Force does the same thing. It's going to be a boss for boss. Next tribute is going to be below, that's in the advantage of Gale Force, as luck would have it.
Man, Gale Force gets to push along with their boss and hang out around the tribute at the same time, whereas the boss of Tempo Storm now has to be largely abandoned toward the top.
It's almost like I don't want any of that.
No thank you, Gale Force.
Very quick reaction there.
Here is the tribute. If Tempo Storm gets this, it will be the first curse of the game, giving them a large advantage to start doing some structural damage. The fight rages on now as Fan using Strafe to give the hope and takes out Lunara, staying alive thanks to the great double supporting of Gale Force eSports.
Michael, Udall, and Vala, they both get away with nothing. No, Udall goes down, but the turnaround, the Burrow Charge on Muradin there, on Genji as well. Deflect is used. So I'm probably going to be getting away. And, you know, this is not a must-win scenario for Tempo Storm. They took this fight from a place of luxury. They wanted to secure their curse tribute. And they lose several members here.
Taking so long to get that kill on Vala. Finally, they did take out Michael Udall, but in the process, taking so much damage, eventually losing Ariel from that too. And then Gale Force eSports with, again, very good force wall plays. We saw this earlier versus Team Expert, and especially once Gale Force eSports hits level 20 and gets Force Barrier, there is no running away from them. And you know who loves when you can't run away from them? Illidan.
One of the best, I forgot Genji came in, one of the best chasers in the game, together with half the Overwatch cast, of course, Illidan. There was one reason that Vala stayed alive. It's that Kala's Light by Tassadar. That armor managed to block much of that poison damage, the Leaping Strike damage, and Vala narrowly stayed alive.
And you got to shout out the Burrow Charge of King Caffeine as well, catching 2 members on the retreat around the bend of the terrain of Cursed Hollow. That's allowed Gale Force eSports not only to tie up in tributes, but fight over this next tribute, hoping to get their own curse. They have 13, but Tempo Storm is not far behind.
Yeah, they're so close to 13. Not quite yet. I've lost some fights at level 12.9 where it's like, oh, but we were so close. Yeah, you don't have the talent yet. The talents have been picked, everyone except Muradin, in fact, so I guess everyone is level 30. Okay, there we go. Healing static. And this is a curse tribute.
And Fan's being chased by Fury, but does dodge the drag. Meanwhile, King Caffeine and Michael Udall are found at Koth and Luck. Let's try to leaping strike over to get some time for the team. Michael Udall now finds himself largely poisoned from Koth and Luck and just can't quite get that kill, even though he was trying his darndest to get it.
Dragon Blade dodge on the Emerald Wind. Genji gets away. Ario was in the cocoon, gets out. Detainment strike on the Nubarak. Tempo Storm in hot pursuit. They want more kills. They want to min-max. The Stormbolt hits.
Stormbolt hits, but King Caffeine is still alive. All the members of Gale Force eSports are low, and that is a dangerous situation for the Poisons. They don't have Illidan, but he'll be back up in a few seconds in the hunt not long after. Gale Force eSports had the well, had the tap. They are desperate not to let Tempo Storm get this curse, but Tempo Storm gets the tribute, cursing Gale Force.
I don't think Tempo Storm should stay here. They got what they wanted. They can spread, get some juicy experience. Here comes the hunt, the turnaround.
Oh, wow.
That's what I was afraid of.
Blown up. Now Genji falls. The Force Wall immediately following up. June uses Crystal Aegis, but that won't matter. Everyone surrounds, and as he pops out, he dies. 3 members of Tempo Storm down, and at the worst time, Grubby, they need to be utilizing this curse that they worked so hard for.
Tempo Storm was singing, "It's my curse day and I can push if I want to," but they used so much to conquer that final and 5th tribute. They were depleted on health and on mana. They overstayed. They did not respect the fact that Illidan was coming back with the hunt available. And now, yeah, they get some AFK push here on the fort. Mid fort goes down, but the way it works out on Cursed Hollow, look at that mid lane. There's a giant minion wave. Who's collecting that XP? Gale Force eSports. They're getting free minions. Sure, they're with full health. You need to do the work, clean them up, but you're getting XP. What happened to your own minions? They died. No one of Tempo Storm was available to collect it, and so the net effect of this curse, not even talking about the deaths that Tempo Storm suffered, the net effect of the minions of that curse, not counting the structure that died, is in favor of Gale Force.
Yeah, I could almost
Tempo Storm's curse.
I could almost hear the experience bar of Gale Force as they soaked up and killed those minions. And
Yep.
You have to respect when a team has a well and you do not. Having the well tap there for Gale Force eSports, the tribute close to there too, turning that around, having Illidan back to the global, you can feel how important this match is to both of these teams. Both of them doing what they believe is their very best to try to make sure that they can win this series and carry on. Tempo Storm, in this very same situation, not only at the midseason brawl, but the last Western Clash lost to Roll20. It is such a frustrating position for them to be in, being constantly called, not the best team in North America, and they want this victory. They feel like they deserve this victory so they can prove that they are the best in NA.
Let's see what they can do in this very difficult situation. They managed to secure the boss. Immediate Hearthstone afterwards. Dahaka still pushing top, desperately trying to net his team, level 16. It's going to be against Brightwing, so he can push that wave. And now the defense, the keep wall is gone. The fountain is being tickled. That's a guaranteed keep death. No two ways about it. Question is, what do they do with that? They actually hard engage before level 16 is reached.
Nice cocoon too on Dragon Blade. Lets Gale Force get out of that sticky situation initially. Caterpillar's low. Fan wants to keep up the stacks and make sure that Cattle can't go into the self-healing mode. Avatar's already been used. There are several heroic abilities down for Tempo Storm as the keep continues to fall.
The keep goes down, but the boss is not healthy enough to push for the core. Tempo Storm can defend this if they play this well. Gale Force makes the call, incredibly, to go for the core in a 5 versus 5 to get the Haka.
Strafe as well, softening up the health bars. Tempo Storm now as Dahaka is not here to help with the defense. The shielding once again keeping Michael Udall alive as he starts to bring down this core more and more. Murden is already down. This does look like Gale Force eSports will be able to take out Tempo Storm in game at number 3, going up 2-1 in the series.
That was a masterful call by Gale Force, executed to a T. Respect. I tip my hat to Gale Force. They get the 3rd win here. They get the 2-1 lead here over Tempo Storm.
Glaurung talked about having confidence in yourself, in your shot calling, and how